everyone, I'm Erin and welcome to the Cardboard Republic. This week we have a +5 range video for you. We're going to be talking about party games. So in these +5 range videos, what we do is take 5 really well-known games and we try to find alternatives that are a little bit off the beaten path. We're going to be doing that for party games, so let's get started. Our first game is Pictionary. This is a very, very classic party game, so you've probably played it before. In Pictionary, players divide into teams, and then players take turns going up to an easel or some other visible piece of paper and drawing out a clue word. The other players, their teammates, have to guess what it is that they're trying to draw. This can be super challenging if you're not artistically inclined or if you don't like having the spotlight on you, but a lot of people do love the game. Our alternative is A Fake Artist Goes to New York. It has a similar drawing mechanic to it. In A Fake Artist Goes to New York, one player is the judge. They give all of the other players a theme or a setting or something like that. Let's say a sunset. The other players are all artists going to New York, except for one. So all of the real artists know that the theme is sunset. The fake artist doesn't know anything. One by one, players have to go up to a common board and make one line in this communal picture. So you make a line and then I make a line, and together we're trying to draw whatever this picture is supposed to be, a sunset. The fake artist obviously doesn't know what's going on. So that person has to try to figure out what people are drawing and also contribute to that drawing in a way that doesn't give away their identity as the fake. We think this is a really comparable choice to Pictionary, and I struggle to say that it's a better choice, but it is an alternative for people who aren't as into the spotlight aspect of Pictionary. In A Fake Artist, you do still get a little bit of that. You're going to be going up, you're going to be kind of drawing things. If you are the fake artist, it can be a lot of pressure, but you don't have that consistent spotlight on you like you do in Pictionary. So A Fake Artist Goes to New York. Try it if you or your group or your family like those drawing games or are maybe way more artistic than we are. Our next game is another ubiquitous party game, but it is much newer than Pictionary. Apples to Apples. In this game, and you're probably familiar with it, or its less family-friendly offshoot, Cards Against Humanity. In Apples to Apples, one player is the judge, and this rotates each round. That player puts out a card that says something. The other players have handfuls of suggestion cards, and they have to slide one into the middle of the table, whatever they think is going to be most applicable, or the best answer, or the funniest, or whatever. Once they get those cards, the judge reads them out, and whoever suggested the one that the judge likes the best is the winner. You know, you play, I mean, technically there are points, but it's one of those games you kind of play until everyone gets bored or you go through all the cards. Our alternative is Word Whimsy. It's a very similar game in that the judge reads off a card and all of the other players have handfuls of cards that they submit and the judge picks the best one. The differences are that in Word Whimsy, players aren't just submitting one card, they can submit a whole bunch. You make phrases instead of just throwing down a one-word adjective in response, which can lead to a lot more replayability, in my opinion, because the different combinations can be funny even after you know the jokes on the cards themselves. The other cool thing about Word Whimsy is that the judge can award points, so you don't just have a one winner for every round. You have, you know, the first place winner and the second place winner and so on. And so it adds a more mechanical feel, I guess, to the classic like pitch game. And I think for some people who are maybe more comfortable playing traditional games, that's appealing because there's a way to tell if you're doing well or not. And also that means that if you're not always the first one, if you're always that player who has like the runner-up thing going on where they pitch a card and it's almost the funniest, but this other player throws down their trump card and that wins, then you can still get something out of it, and that could actually be a viable way to win the game. So Word Whimsy, we think, is a good alternative to Apples to Apples, especially for gamers, and we encourage you to check it out. The next game on our list is one that literally terrifies me. Catchphrase. In Catchphrase, you divide the party into teams of 2, and you sit in a circle alternating Team A players with Team B players so that no one from Team A is sitting next to, Team A people. Every round begins by setting the buzzer. Then whoever is holding the buzzer has to yell out clues, phrases, words, in order to get the other people on their team to guess what phrase or word they're trying to hint at. If that player is successful and the rest of the team gets it, then they pass the buzzer and it is someone else's problem. If that player is not successful and the buzzer goes off while they're holding it, then their team loses that round. I do not like buzzers. I don't like buzzers in games. I don't even really like buzzers in my life in general. So Catchphrase is probably not for me. For our alternative game, we decided to look at something a little bit different. We're gonna go with Concept. Concept isn't quite a high-stress team-based game, but it is a game that uses language and communication in a very restricted and very different way from just generally talking with people. So in Concept, players divide into teams of 2, and they sit around this really beautiful board that's full of icons and symbols. Every round, one player from the team is given a clue, so say milk. They have to put down little tokens on the board on top of the icons that they think can convey that clue. So I might put down white and the glass of water for milk and hope that my teammate can see, okay, well, it's white and it's a glass, it's gonna be milk. That's how you get points in Concept. So, like I said before, it's not exactly a direct comparison to Catchphrase or Taboo or any of those other high-intensity games, but it is a really good alternative if you're looking for a game that forces you to communicate in ways that you otherwise wouldn't. Our next game is a classic convention party game, Werewolf. In Werewolf, all of the players are dealt a role card. A lot of these are villagers, various types of villagers sometimes, and a couple werewolves. Everyone sits in a circle and puts their heads down. Depending on the role you have, you might get some information during that portion. You might learn who else is on your team or not. The werewolves also mark someone for death. When everyone picks their heads up, one of the players is dead. They're out of the game. There's nothing they can really do about it. Thankfully, the game goes pretty fast, so it's not like a huge deal. But then the remaining players have to argue amongst themselves to try to figure out who the werewolf is. If they manage to successfully get rid of all of the werewolves in the game, the players win. If the werewolves manage to kill off a set number of villagers before being killed off themselves, then the werewolves win. It's pretty simple, really. And there are a lot of derivatives like coup and resistance and so on and so forth. It's that same kind of social deduction game. We decided to go with Good Cop, Bad Cop as an alternative title. In Good Cop, Bad Cop, every player is dealt 3 cards. Some of these cards are good cops. Some of these cards are bad cops. You are whatever you have more of. So if you have 2 good cops and 1 bad cop, then you're a good cop. You know. There are also 2 special cards. There is the FBI boss, and there is the mob boss. Every round, players go and they can do investigations. That means they are able to look at one face-down card from another player. The whole point of the game is to eliminate the opposing team's boss. So once you figure out who that is, you have to try to get a gun and then try to shoot that player. It proceeds until one or the other team leader is dead. Then whichever team wins, wins. We decided to go with good cop, bad cop because it's a little bit simpler to teach to new people. It has a little bit more of a mechanic to it rather than just a lot of yelling around in a group, which can be totally fun at like 3 a.m. in the hallway outside of Gen Con, but isn't always what you want in a smaller convention or at a family party. Anyway, good cop, bad cop as an alternative to Werewolf and other big party games like that. We think it's a good suggestion. Our fifth game is Trivial Pursuit. It's a classic. These are all classics in their own way, but there's something particularly classic about Trivial Pursuit. This is a game that everyone has on their shelves, even people who would never ever touch another board game. In Trivial Pursuit, players move around the board trying to correctly answer trivia questions from different categories. If they're smart, they've practiced ahead of time and memorized all of the really tough questions, like I did. If they're not so smart, they might get them wrong, they might get them right, and the game lasts a whole lot longer. As an alternative, a more modern alternative, we are proposing Wits and Wagers. This is another trivia game, but you don't need to get the answers right. So in Wits and Wagers, players are still trying to answer trivia questions from different categories. But once you put forth your best answer, you also get to bet on who you think is right. So if I have a friend Steve, and Steve loves science, and we're asked a science question, I might not know the answer, but I'm pretty sure Steve does. So I might bet a lot of money on Steve getting that right. If Steve wins, then Steve gets points, and I get points, and I'm super smart even though Steve was the one who answered the question correctly. If Steve loses, then none of us get points. So that's essentially Wits and Wagers. It's the same sort of thing that the title summarizes it really well. I like this because I no longer have the time to memorize all the answers to Trivial Pursuit questions, so this still gives me a way to actually contribute to the game. It's fun, it adds a new dynamic, and it adds a little more interaction and kind of playfulness to what can be a rather dry genre if you're not playing in a bar. Anyway, that's Wits and Wagers. We think it's a fun substitute for Trivial Pursuit. So we have a little bit of a bonus round this episode because during our first episode, we actually covered a party game. We looked at Cards Against Humanity, and that game's a lot problematic for a bunch of reasons, but it's a lot of fun and people still really love it. So we proposed Slash as an alternative to that, and we're gonna roll that segment real quick right here. If you like Cards Against Humanity, and I know, again, a lot of people like Cards Against Humanity, what should you try? I would say try Slash, Romance Without Boundaries. So Slash is a Games by Playdate game, and it was designed by Glenn Given. This game is like if you removed all of the problematic things from Cards Against Humanity and added a lot more smooching. Slash is all about the smooching. Slash is basically fanfiction the game. In Slash, the active player selects a character card, and the other players at the table go around and they choose another card that they think should be paired off as an OTP, one true pairing, with the character card that the active player selected. So I might select Voldemort, and you might select Pikachu. And yes, that is an actual fanfic out there, so it exists. And then you have to convince me why this Voldemort / Pikachu match is exactly what I want to read that night. Anyway, Slash is a lot of fun, and you can play it in many different ways, but what I like about Slash, especially for playing with people that you might not necessarily want to play a Cards Against Humanity with, is that Slash is never really mean. I mean, you can still push people's buttons with it, you might step over lines and have to correct yourself, all those things happen like they could in any game, but Slash tries very, very hard to make everyone feel welcome, regardless of what you're into. So this has been Plus 5 Range, our episode on party games. I hope that you found some titles that you can bring out next time you have a big gathering, and please let us know how that goes. If you have some other alternatives to the classic party game fare, we would love to hear it because these are titles that we're always looking for. So please leave a comment down below. If you like what we're doing here, please like and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to throw a little more support our way, our Patreon is up and running, and we greatly appreciate any donations or any shares or anything you can do to help us over there. So we look forward to bringing you more videos soon.